Tipp today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp today. 1800 938 007. Our free phone number won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. And Leanne is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, I'll be speaking to our sports editor, Paul Carroll, in just a few moments' time. Councillor Jim Ryan says that the current funding for Tipperary's festivals isn't worth a damn. We'll tease that out with him a little later. Kennedy's Pub in Weir Cross fighting back against the price of a pint. What is laughing gas? Why is it so dangerous? Dean McGrath will talk to us about that. Thomas Conway has the global news, and our relationship expert Susan O'Donoghue will be with us live in studio. All of that and more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday@tippfm.com. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers today. The Irish Daily Mail and their lead story: almost a third of primary schools have seen a sharp rise in the number of pupils absent for 4 weeks or more in the wake of the pandemic. And patterns around primary and secondary school children taking days off have grown worse over 2 recent academic years and show no signs of reversing course. A worrying report on school absenteeism has found at the Irish Times. And the lead story on the Times today, and of course the story covered right across the newspapers: the state of Minnesota remains locked in a bitter dispute with the White House and federal law enforcement agencies over wildly conflicting accounts and interpretations of the killing of Minneapolis nurse by the Immigration and Customs enforcement agents. That's ICE. And there's a picture of the protesters there at the site of the killing in Minneapolis, dominating the front of the Irish Times today. Right across the newspapers, and Pat brought it to you in our bulletins as well: a teenage girl who sustained catastrophic injuries in an incident involving a scrambler bike in North Dublin has died. Gardaí confirmed last night. She was just 14 years of age. Also on the Times today, reading that homeowners will be offered grants of up to €5,600 to retrofit windows and doors as part of a state scheme to encourage the wider installation of heat pumps in Irish homes. The Irish Independent, and this is an interesting one. The cost of accommodating asylum seekers last year is on course to hit another record, despite government efforts to curtail its spend. The Justice Minister, Jim O'Callaghan, has revealed that almost €950 million was spent on the accommodation last year up to the end of October. Costs topped €1 billion for the first time in 2024. N2 leader Peadar Tóibín called for more scrutiny of the spending, pointing out that wealthy landlords and property owners are gaining financially from the spiralling spending in a profit-motivated system. And finally, a look at the Irish Examiner. And again, coverage of that shooting in Minnesota taking the lead story place there. They're also telling us that, and again was referenced in the Mail earlier on, that pandemic era chronic school absenteeism shows little sign of improvement. And also on the Examiner today, we're reading that the government will be required to undertake annual expert reviews of new laws which change how Ireland deploys troops abroad. Ministers are expected to approve a series of amendments to new laws which would dismantle Ireland's triple lock system for deploying soldiers abroad by removing the need for a UN mandate for peacekeeping missions. But the new laws will also increase the number of troops that can be deployed without a Dáil vote, up to 50 in fact. Now it's expected the Cabinet will approve the laws as early as next week. So that's a look at what's making headlines on your newspapers today. If you'd like to make comment on any of that, once again, text WhatsApp 083 311 3311. Another busy weekend of sport. Our sports editor Paul Carroll joins me now. Good morning to you, Paul.
Morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, Paul. Good to talk to you today. You had a busy one over the weekend, jet sitting around the place as well as everything else. Can we start with the game against Galway, of course, and a good win there for Tipperary?
Yeah, Tip Hurlers off to a winning start, Fran. It was a real dirty evening, basically, down in Thurles. It was a wet, windy kind of occasion, so very difficult for players, but both teams rolled up the sleeves and got at it, and it was 9 points apiece at half-time, and kind of a ho-hum kind of first half, nothing too major happening in the game. But then the second half, a bit of a row started, and that kind of awakened, I think, everyone in Thurles, including the players and the supporters. And the game kind of went up a few degrees in intensity after that. And Tip performed really well in the last kind of quarter of the game. Some of the subs that came on made a big difference. Of course, Darius Stakelum coming on to land the goal to ultimately turn the game in Tipperary's favour, and that was a big score in the game. But a good run out for Tipperary. Jake Morris was really, really good. He scored 8 points, 5 from play, and in those conditions, 5 points from play is exceptional, and just his ball winning ability and the leadership he showed was really impressive. And some debutants as well for Tipperary, of course. Cathal O'Reilly from Holy Cross Ballycal, the 2024 All-Ireland minor winning captain, got an incredible block on Aaron Nyland, another young player for Galway, just before half-time, and what looked like a certain goal. And he got a couple of other blocks as well, so really exciting to see the likes of him making his debut. Likewise, Stephen Tobin, Paddy McCormack, Jack Leamy played the game as well. Difficult, just ball didn't really come near him, so a difficult kind of debut for him in the conditions and the lack of supply maybe he got in that first half, so he'll be disappointed, but I'm sure he'll get a second chance. But yeah, overall good performance for Tipperary to beat Galway, who also showed a lot of promise as well compared to maybe how they performed last year. So there's certainly green shoots in Galway as well. But a great start to the league for Liam Cahill and his team.
Then you got on a jet plane and you headed for London, Paul.
Yeah, that was Saturday night, then Sunday morning up to Dublin to head over to Heathrow for the Tipp footballers, and that was yesterday. And it was treated to a really entertaining game of football, thankfully, and it was a similar kind of day in London yesterday as it was in Thurles on Saturday, up until about a half an hour before throw-in, and then it cleared up, and it was dry for when the players were out on the field. So yeah, Tipperary drew at London 21 points apiece in Division 4, the National Football League, first game under new manager Niall Fitzgerald. And I think Tipperary would have been coming back on the plane a lot happier than they were maybe 2 years ago. They drew in London 2 years ago against London, and that was where London got a last point of the game to draw it, and Tipperary kind of were winning a large part of that game and didn't come away with the win, where it was the opposite yesterday. Tip were down for most of the game, a really young Tipperary team. I think 7 players made their league debuts yesterday for Tipperary, but they really grounded out, and the 2-pointers, Fran, was the main difference. London managed 1 2-pointer throughout the game. Tipperary had 5, 3 from Shawnee O'Connor. He scored 9 points in total, and then 1 at the very end from Keane Smith to level the game with the last kick of the game with his left boot. So brilliant score for Keane Smith, and he scored 7 points in total. Micheál Freeney came off the bench and kicked a brilliant 2-pointer as well. So it's a draw. It's a draw away to London, yeah. And Tipperary can be happy coming up back on the flight last night back into Cork, where they flew into, because it never really looked like Tip were going to get anything from that game, but they stuck at it, and they leave London with a point.
Fair play indeed. Good news for Clonmel High School, Paul.
Yeah, it was a brilliant weekend of football really for Tipperary. It started on Saturday with Clonmel High School into a Munster Senior A football final. So the Kearney Vuiri is the football equivalent of the Harty Cup. So to have a Tipperary school in the final is something we haven't been able to say all too often. I think 10 years ago, Clonmel High School also reached the final, but they ran into a team which included David Clifford in the final of that game, so they were beaten on that occasion, but back into another final now 10 years later, and they beat Presentation Milltown in the semi-final over the weekend in Kilmallock. 110 to 1-8 was the full-time score, but doesn't really tell the story of how that game played out. High School were down 1-8 to 5 points at half-time, and they managed to hold their Kerry opposition scoreless in the second half and win the game 110 to 1-8, and Mikey Maguire with the goal in the second half for Clonmel. So huge excitement now. We've a Tipperary team in Nina CBS in the Munster Senior Senior A Schools Hurling Final. That's next Saturday. Then the following Saturday, we can all look forward to Clonmel High School taking on Tralee CBS in the Munster Senior A Schools Football Final. So just brilliant, and worth mentioning as well, Abbey CBS into the Munster Senior B Schools Football Final as well. So just brilliant to have the Tipperary footballing schools kind of emerging through these provincial competitions and getting into the back end of them, because it points to good things to come in the future for Tip football.
And the good news doesn't stop there. Ladies football?
Yeah, well, you mentioned I had a busy weekend. David Power certainly had a busy weekend as well. He was involved with Clonmel High School, and he's also involved with the Tip Ladies footballers. And so on Saturday he would have been involved with the high school. Sunday down to Enniscorthy for the start of the Ladies Football League, his first game in charge of Tipperary, and they leave Enniscorthy with a 2-12 to 2-9 victory. Both goals on the day for Tipperary coming from Emma Morrissey, and she's been a real mainstay of this Tipperary team for the last number of years. And as things have kind of maybe changed around the panel in terms of girls heading to Australia and coming back and not being available and things like that, Emma Morrissey has always kind of been there and been doing it for Tipperary. So she scored both goals yesterday, and Wexford did score a goal with kind of the last kick of the game to close the gap from 6 points to 3. But a really good win for Tipperary. Wexford were Division 3 champions last year, so would have had a bit of momentum to start their new season. But a good win for Tipperary. They play Cavan next weekend, and a good start under new manager David Power as well.
Munster final win, Paul, for Tipperary Camogie team over the weekend as well.
Yeah, we had a under 16A final Munster final victory for Tipperary. Beat Cork 2-15 to 2-6, so that's a real positive result. Yeah. Cork have been dominant in Camogie for well, what feels like forever really, but underage certainly Tipperary have struggled maybe to get the better of them the last while, but to have a victory like that is impressive. 2-15 to 2-6. There was also a Munster Minor A Shield victory for Tipperary. They beat Clare, and the Munster Minor B final was also won by Tipperary's second team. They beat Kerry yesterday. So a good weekend for underage camogie around the county.
To rugby then, and Munster back to winning ways.
Yeah, they grounded out on Friday night, Fran, down in Musgrave, or Virgin Media Park as it's called now in Cork. 22 points to 20. They beat Dragons and in the URC, and this was an absolute... it was bad enough in Thurles weather-wise on Saturday. I think it was worse down in Cork on Friday evening. Real difficult conditions, wind teeming down and howling wind, and it's real difficult conditions, but Munster really grounded out. Gavin Coombs coming off the bench to score 2 tries, and he's probably one of the, no exaggeration, inside the 5 metre line, one of the best players you can have in world rugby. He just seems to be able to get the ball over the try line in those situations. There's not many other players you'd prefer in those, and he had to do it twice for Munster to really rescue a difficult victory, but a really needed victory. One more game to go before the start of the Six Nations, so if Munster could get a win there, they'll take some momentum into that break period.
What about the Tipperary teams then over the weekend, Paul?
Yeah, we had the AIL on over the weekend. Nina beaten up in Dublin against Clontarf in Division 1A, 35 points to 24. Clontarf are at the top of Division 1A. Nina are still winless at the top tier after 11 games, but Clontarf have won 10 of their 11 games, so it was always going to be a real difficult test heading up to Dublin to play Clontarf. But just judging by the scoreline, it seems to be a decent enough performance for Nina, but couldn't get over the line there. 35 points to 24. Cashel got a much needed win in Division 2A over the weekend. They beat Galway Corinthians 12 points to 5, and Clonmel continued their brilliant form in Division 2C with a 24 points to 20 home win in Ardguiha against Bective Rangers. So Clonmel flying high in Division 2C. I didn't quite see the Thomond results, but I might be able to bring up the league table in front of me here. Clonmel still second in Division 2C behind Thomond, and with Cashel's win in Division 2A, they're still 8th, but closing the gap, and still just 8 points off the playoffs at the minute. So all is not lost, and if Cashel can stay winning games, there could be something in this season for them yet.
Wouldn't it be great? Local soccer action over the weekend then?
Yeah, and we had just a couple of league games, a lot of Tipperary Cup games up in the north of the county as well. But in terms of the league, St Michael's were 6-0 winners away of Cullen Latin in the TSDL Premier League. Peak Villa with a big 3-1 win away to 2 Mile Burris bit of a local derby there. And Clonmel Celtic beaten 2-0 at home against Kerr Park. North of the county then, Ardcroney back to winning ways with a 3-1 win over Ara Rovers. And I'll have to mention it as well, Fran, Manchester United with a big win over Arsenal yesterday. I was watching that on the tarmac in Heathrow on my phone, trying to contain my excitement when that third goal went in for United. But we haven't had too much to cheer about this season, so we'll certainly enjoy that.
Well, you're forgiven for that then. And to look ahead for us, Paul, then, what's coming up?
Yeah, I'll also mention as well just the American football last night. We now know who's going to be competing in Super Bowl 60 in 2 weeks' time. So it is going to be the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. So one of the games, essentially the two semi-finals were on last night, the divisional finals, and one of them was a complete blizzard. Like, I don't know how they play the games over there. It was out in Denver, but the New England Patriots found a way to win that game 10-7. So they'll play the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl in Santa Clara in California in 2 weeks' time. So a bit of excitement just to look ahead to that one, and a repeat of a Super Bowl 44, which Tom Brady won in dramatic circumstances with a last-minute interception on the goal line there. But looking ahead locally this week, Tipperary Hurlers back in action next Sunday, 2 o'clock away in Offaly against Tullamore. Footballers frustratingly playing at the exact same time. They're at home in Semple Stadium against Antrim, and the ladies footballers also playing at 2 o'clock on Sunday. I think that's down in Clonmel against Cavan in the league. So frustrating in terms of scheduling of those games for Tipperary supporters, but what can you do? Also next Saturday the Harty Cup final is on, and that will be a hugely exciting affair in Ennis. That'll be live here on Tipp FM, and St. Flannan's College Ennis, Nina CBS in Ennis, so you'd expect a really big home crowd, and Nina will bring an awful lot of supporters as well. So there'll be loads of colour, loads of life in Ennis next Saturday. Really looking forward to that one, and wishing Nina CBS all the very best of luck. In the world of darts this week as well, Stephen Rosny will be making his PDC Pro Tour debut. The early stages of the World Masters are on this week, so Stephen Rosny making his introduction to the world of professional darts during the week as well. Also, Fitzgibbon and Sigerson Cup quarterfinals taking place. I mentioned David Power being a busy man at the minute. He is also the manager of the UL Sigerson Cup team, and a lot of Tipperary players involved with them, and loads of Tipperary players involved throughout the Fitzgibbon Cup quarterfinals as well. So another busy week and weekend of sport to look forward to, Fran, here in Tipperary.
Fair play. Paul, thanks very much indeed. Good morning to you.
Thanks, Fran.
Our sports editor, Paul Carroll, from our Nina studio. We'll take a break, back with more in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon, main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.